Your editing income will only ever be as consistent as your editing clients. So if they stop sending you work, you stop making money. So these are going to be the psychological hacks that I use to get clients to send me videos on a regular basis. If we haven't met, my name's Sayeef. I've edited for some of the largest YouTubers in the world, and I've scrolled past 10k a month myself. And all we talk about on this channel is how to hit 10k months as an editor while still enjoying your life. Step number 1 is we need to set expectations from day 1. It happens all the time where editors will start working with a client and it's sort of just on a per project basis. Now, let me give an example of how working with a client long term should feel like. It's sort of like dating. Now, if you and a girl just met and you told her, hey, we should go on 5 dates this month. Is it cool we book those in now? That'd be really bloody weird because you haven't met her, she hasn't met you. You guys don't know if you'd like each other. Instead, what you'd do is you'd have 1 date, see if you like each other, then go for the second. If you like each other still, you go for the third, and so on. And maybe a few months in, you guys really like each other. Maybe you call yourselves boyfriend, girlfriend now. And now you can say, hey, let's meet on this cadence. Working with editing clients is the exact same way, where you don't want to try going for a retainer close on day 1, because if you do get it, it's going to be nowhere near the rate that you want because they haven't seen the value yet. Instead, it's fine to go on a per project basis, kind of show your value, and then after moving onto a retainer / official relationship with them after. But just like in dating, it's important you get to know each other's long-term goals before you guys commit to each other. Because if you try getting into a long-term relationship, maybe even for marriage, with a girl who has the intentions of a short-term partner, that's never going to work out. In the same way, we want to ask a client up front, what cadence are we expecting to send videos on? How frequently are we expecting this to be? Is this more of a short-term thing? Is it a long-term thing? Where are we going here so I can plan around that? And just by getting them to say it out loud, we leverage something in psychology called a commitment bias. In psychology, a commitment bias is where people will oftentimes follow through with something that they themselves have actively said and agreed to. If me and you both say we're going to meet at this place at this time and we verbally agree to that, we're both more likely to go to that place compared to if we say, hey, we'll see if we go to that place in the future or not. But by us both actively saying it, it's a lot more likely to actually happen. So by starting the relationship off with a client saying, hey, how many videos are we planning on doing? Even if they just say, hey, I'm planning on doing this many, but it may change in the future, that's giving us the certainty and letting them know, hey, I'm in this for the long term. I want you to be sending me consistent work. In the same way, you don't turn a hoe into a housewife. You don't try turning a one-off project client into a consistent client because it rarely ever works. The second psychological hack that we use to get clients to send us consistent work is we over-deliver. And this sounds obvious, but please just hear me out. Most editors think that they over-deliver, but they haven't even defined it. What is over-delivering? Delivery is just reality minus expectations. If I expect it to be a 10 out of 10 video, but in reality, you give me a 5 out of 10 video, 5 minus 10 is minus 5, you've under-delivered. If I expect a 5 out of 10 video, and you give me a 5 out of 10 video, you have delivered. It's neutral. Now, if you've set the expectation for a 3 out of 10 video and you deliver a 10 out of 10 video, the delivery score in this case would be a 7. So you've over-delivered. So delivery is just the delta. It's the difference between what the person expects and what they actually got. And I'll explain the 3 variables for how to over-deliver for a client in a moment. But it's important that we understand that just because you've given in what you've expected and the client's happy doesn't mean they're expecting and feel excited about giving you more work. It's sort of like this. Let's say you go to a chicken and chip shop, right? In the UK, I have no idea if it's in other places, but you just got chicken and chips, which is basically just fast food. If you ask a boss man for 6 wings and he gives you 6 wings, you have expectation of 6, he's given 6, he's delivered. Now, there's nothing to write home about. It's not like you're going to go to your friends and be like, holy crap, these guys are amazing. They gave me 6 wings and I asked for 6 wings. You don't say that. But if Bossman gave you 7 wings, suddenly you're like, whoa, dude, it was my first time there. I expected 6 wings. They actually gave me 7. And because they've done that, you feel like they've over-delivered. You're actually more happy than if they just gave you 6. Now, what's interesting is Bossman, so the guy that owns a chicken and chip shop, he actually decides what he sets the expectation to. Because let's say he doesn't want to give an extra wing for free, so he still just wants to give 6 wings. Now, in most cases, this would just be normal delivering. But what he could do is say, hey, this is actually a box of 5 wings. So you now buy that box of 5 wings, he gives you 6. And now suddenly, he has over-delivered. So in order for us to over-deliver, there's 2 variables we can change. We can either increase reality for what it is, so actually giving in a better video and a few other things that I'll explain. Or, and most editors don't actually think about this, we can actually just lower the expectations in order to make this gap between expectation and reality as big as possible to maximize satisfaction and maximize that feeling that, hey, we've over-delivered, you should keep sending us more videos. So what does this actually look like in practice? There are 3 ways or 3 variables that you should consider when you're thinking about over-delivery. Number 1 is the actual editing. So this is just, how does the video look? How does it feel? The storytelling, is the editing actually better than what they've expected? Now, this doesn't mean just do it more complex. I see editors make this mistake all the time, where they think, oh, I want to over-deliver for the video. So they think, I'm going to do these crazy animations that the client just doesn't want. When I say over-delivering in terms of editing, I mean in terms of editing more and better in the specific context of the video. So let's say the guy says he wants a simple finance video. In most cases, when someone says they want a simple finance video, that doesn't mean they want very little animations. In reality, they might actually want higher level animations. They just want specifically animations that would fit their niche. Because there's only 2 things that can happen once you've over-delivered in terms of editing. The more likely option, and I've seen this 99 out of 100 times when I get an editor to do this, which is they say this is a sick video and that later leads on to a pay rise, or the client will come back and say hey, I actually don't want that in there. This has happened 1 time out of hundreds of people I've gotten to do this. But the editor's done the video more than expected and it was within context. The client said, hey, I actually don't want that. Do you know what we did? We just went back into the timeline, disabled the clips, re-rendered it, sent it off to the client. And the best thing is he could still post that well-edited clip onto his preview, so when he posts it on his social media, and that continued to get him better clients who wanted better videos, etc. So even when the client felt like, hey, this is a bit unnecessary, it still served the editor because he had a banger to post, which got him 2 more inbounds as a result. The only time that this goes wrong is when editors think, hey, I need to make more complex shit for the sake of it, not, hey, how can I make this better within the context of the niche, the genre, and the personality of the client. The second way that we can over-deliver is in terms of deadlines. So if I tell you the video is going to take 4 days and I get it done in 4 days, there's nothing to write home about. You just did your job. Well done. But if I say it's going to take 5 days and I got it done in 4 days, suddenly you're super happy. Now, nothing has changed about how quickly I've done the video. It's still taken 4 days, but you're so much happier because I set the expectation lower. So bringing it back to what we talked about of, hey, there's 2 ways to actually influence any of these variables. First of all, we can just get the video done faster. This is improving your workflow, implementing shortcuts, learning automations through things like Keyboard Maestro or Streamdex, etc. And really just automating parts of your workflow to take a video that usually would take a week and bring it down to 1-2 days. Or, and in most cases, we just set an artificially inflated deadline. So instead of telling the client it'll take 2 days when you know it'll take 2 days, say 3, say 4. Best case scenario, you've over-delivered because you've literally finished a video in half the time. Worst case scenario, it turns out it's a bigger project than you expected and you have the extra time and the extra leeway to get the video done on time. Now, what if you're thinking, oh, the client needs it by this day, what if I can't close him just because of me inflating the deadline? Oftentimes, a client would rather have a video done by an editor they want a few days later compared to an editor that they feel like they're settling with on time. For example, I had a client once, her name's Sona. The video was supposed to get done within a week. Now, a week in, I've worked on the video, but the video is truly just nowhere near done because I saw so much potential with the video and I told her, if you just give me a couple more days, I promise you there's going to be a banger. She gave me a few more days and I kept her updated throughout. After a few days, Took another few days. Then I was like, hey, can I have like another few weeks? And truthfully, after like a month or two, she basically just said, hand it in whenever, I trust you with the process. It took me 3 months to finish that video. However, it's still her best viewed video right now at 7 million views when she was previously averaging only 200,000. And it got me hundreds of inbounds, even to this day, getting me clients. So it just absolutely skyrocketed my career. Now, why was it that she was not even just fine, but happy for me to take that long on a video when we set the expectation of a week? Well, because she actually trusted me and I was the editor that she genuinely wanted. If I was just some random editor where I was competing with all of these hundreds of other editors and she picked me just because, hey, I'll get the job done, she would have been pissed out of her mind. But because I positioned myself correctly, I had more leeway when it came to how long I had on the video. So in your sales process, you can actually artificially extend that deadline. So when you do meet it, you've exceeded reality and you have over-delivered in terms of deadline. And the third way that we over-deliver is communication. Communication is an age-old hack. Just think about it like this. Humans are social creatures, and if they communicate better with someone, there's like this innate tribal feeling that, hey, we like this person. If you look at cults, and I know we're going to go on a bit of a tangent here, but cults are basically just movements of people where they're all following one person. Now, the one characteristic of cults and cult leaders is there's a charismatic leader. Doesn't matter if it's the Kool-Aid cult or like some random other cult story, it's always a charismatic leader. So if we want influence and we want the ability to change people's behavior and to have the upper hand in a negotiation, we want to be charismatic. So it's clear throughout human history, both old and new, that just having good communication skills will not only be good for gaining influence and having the upper hand in a negotiation, but also when things go wrong, people will give you a lot more leeway and the benefit of the doubt. In fact, you might have even seen this yourself when you were younger, like in school. You can have the same joke said by two different people. The popular Chad, like the cool guy, he says the joke, awesome, it's funny, cool. But when the weird autistic kid says it, now it's kind of cringe. It's like the same joke can be said by two people, but just because of the perception of how they've communicated the joke, we have perceived both the joke and the person differently. Now, in order to actually implement this, there was a tactic that I took from like first-person shooter games. So I used to bloody love this game called Fortnite. It's a game where it's like guns, whatever. Now, in a lot of gun games, there's this concept called pre-firing, which is basically where you actually shoot the gun, or like you try to shoot the person before they've actually like shown up or the bullet would actually hit them. The reason being, let's say that like your reaction time is, I don't know, like 50 milliseconds, right? Like human reaction time. If I shoot the gun when I actually see the opponent or when I actually notice that I can shoot him, I might be 50 milliseconds off. So like he appears at this time and then it takes me this long to shoot him. So I've basically wasted all this time and I've messed up. What pre-firing is let's say all the way down here, you kind of read the person's body language and you're like, you know what? I feel like in about 50 milliseconds, he's going to expose himself. You actually shoot or give your brain and hands the command to shoot here. And then 50 milliseconds later, you've shot. So now the difference between when he's exposed himself, like the enemy has exposed himself, and when you've taken a shot is only this much time, rather than this much time, which in first-person shooter games is often the difference between life and death. Now, pre-firing in communication is where you talk about a problem, or you just stay in contact with the client before you either have a problem or even need to speak with them. For example, let's say it's Monday right now. You know the video is due on Thursday. Instead of you speaking to them on Thursday and telling them like, hey, the video's ready, instead on Monday, you tell them, hey, I've downloaded the footage. On Tuesday, you say, hey, just a quick heads up, I've cut this. On Wednesday, you say, hey, here's a quick screenshot of the timeline. And then on Thursday, you give them the video. Think about how much more taken care of and certain they'd feel about you as an editor, knowing that they have these frequent moments where you're just keeping them in the loop. Now, a lot of editors will think, oh, but I don't want to annoy the client. I promise you, no client will ever get annoyed by you telling them, hey, you spent your money, here's where it's going. Like if you spent, let's say $500, $1,000 to me, and I told you, hey, whatever I'm delivering to you will take 3 days. If after one day I'm like, hey, quick heads up, I've actually started on it, blah, 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 you wouldn't be like, oh, why is this guy texting me? You'd think, okay, cool, thanks for letting me know. Now this takes maybe 5-10 seconds to implement a day, but by having these quick, frequent updates, two things happen. First of all, they didn't expect it, So the expectations were already in the mud because they've worked with a ton of shitty editors who don't do this. But reality is actually better because they expected it to be like, hey, he'll give in the video and that's when he'll speak to me. But in reality, what's happened is he's kept me updated throughout the process. But the second thing that having this constant like pre-firing method of communication does is if there is a problem, we have the report, meaning like the reputation, the relationship with this person, where if something does go wrong, at least it's less awkward. Because let's say on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you've given him updates, and on Wednesday evening, you're like, dude, the video is this much done. I've got a really cool idea with the sound design. Is it cool you give me like one more day? I can smash it out of the park. If you need me to get it done by Thursday, I can. If you give me one more day, I can smash it out of the park with the sound design. By you asking it like that, because you've had a history of good communication, he now will take that more seriously and actually believe you. But if you're the type of person that hasn't really communicated until that problem, now it just seems like you're giving a shitty excuse. So we want to make sure we're over-delivering in all three of these areas. The actual editing, the deadlines, and your communication, making sure that's all on point. And the next psychological hack that we use to get consistent editing clients is called threading. So threading is a conversational technique that I use to actually become more social in my real life. But I found that the exact same concept is used not only for closing clients, but also for keeping them and getting consistent work from them as well. Put simply, threading is just when someone asks you a question, instead of you just answering it and leaving it at that, you answer the question and you ask a question in return. Because what that does is they're now going to give you an answer, and to that you can basically like acknowledge it and ask another question, and that just threads to the next point in the conversation. So it's like your questions are weaving to the other person. What most people do, both in real life conversations and in client conversations, is the person will ask a question, they'll answer it, and it's a good answer, but they kind of just leave it there, and they're wondering why the client didn't continue the conversation and why they feel like they got ghosted. It's like you didn't get ghosted, you just didn't ask a fucking question. In the same way, if a client stops sending you videos, maybe it's not that he ghosted you or didn't like the work or he was mad at you. Maybe you just didn't ask when the next video is. And if you did ask when the next video is, maybe you just didn't get a commitment from him, either verbally, in text, whatever, saying, hey, it's actually going to be here by this date. The worst thing that you can do when you've delivered an editing project, the guy says, let's say, hey, this is nice, well done, thank you, whatever. And you just say, no worries, let me know when you've got the next video. This is the worst thing you can do because you leave the conversation in what I call no man's land. And you never want to leave the conversation in no man's land. The conversation in no man's land is where there's no clear next step or next point in communication which is clearly defined with a timeline. For example, let's say me and you, so this is me, this is you, look at us, we're so happy, we're such friends, awesome sauce. If me and you say, hey, we're gonna go to the park at 8 p.m. tomorrow, cool, this is a clear timeline that we've got. But let's say I want to maximize the likelihood that we actually get to the park and no one cancels last minute and nothing sporadic happens. I say, hey, let's text at 4 p.m. to confirm. Now, at 4 p.m., it's completely like socially acceptable for me to message you or for you to message me. It's not like anyone's being needy. But if this expectation wasn't set, and I randomly just text you at 4 p.m, hey, are you definitely going to be okay to come at 8 p.m. today? It's just kind of weird. But if we set the expectation that we're going to text and you say, yeah, that's a good idea, let's text to confirm. Now when I text you or you text me at 4 p.m, it's not coming out of the blue. In the same way, when let's say this is now you and your editing client, he has a YouTube face as you can see, you say, hey, when's the next video? If he now says, hey, I have a video by April 4th, you can now follow up on April 3rd saying, hey, just checking in, we all good for tomorrow? And if he's not all good, at least you find out then and you can handle any problems. And let's say on April 4th, he doesn't send a video in, you now are in the moral and social position, you have the high ground to actually be able to follow up without looking like a needy prick. But if you kind of just leave the conversation at, hey, let me know when you have a video ready, and you now follow up like, hey, do you have it ready now? Or, hey, just let me know. Or, hey man, super excited because I don't have any videos right now. You look needy. So that's why we ask them when do we have the next video? And if they're like, hey, I'm not sure, you just ask, when do you feel like you'd have it ready? By the way, quick little negotiation or sales tip. There's a very big difference between think and feel. When you ask people like, when do you think you'll have it ready? Oftentimes you activate their more logical side of the brain. But by switching it to feel, people oftentimes feel a lot less resistance to actually answering. So I'll basically ask it in this order. The first thing I'll ask is when, like will. So basically a lot more certainty. So like, when will we have the next video? If I don't get an answer to that, I'm gonna almost like drop sell, like down sell kind of into the think. So no worries if you don't have it ready. When do you think you'll have it ready by? Oh, I'm not sure because I haven't recorded in a while, so I just need to batch it up. No worries, man. When do you feel like you'd be doing your next batch of recordings? So when you get to this point, most people will give you an answer because you can't really like not answer a feel question. So in the same way we thread in a conversation, this concept is basically us threading from one video to another. So we never leave the conversation in no man's land where we kind of just don't know where the conversation is going. We always thread to the next video. So those are the psychological hacks to get consistent work from your editing clients. But of course, you need to actually close these clients in the first place. So go watch this video here. It's the exact DM sales process that I used to close $1,000 plus per video clients. Go watch that video here.